Let's now go across to our panel of experts to help us decode what we're seeing in this election. I'm joined by Chakri, Lokapriya, Managing Director at TCG Asset Management. He's joining us on the show.
This and you know, the larger impact on economic policies as well, because a lot of people, I mean, you know, we know what happened to Ujjivan Financial when the first of the mandates of this farm loan waiver came about. There's nothing to say that these things won't happen in the past, but that's a very narrow aspect. The broader economic policy aspect as a result of what is looking like the verdict from the state of Karnataka right now.
Yes, I don't think, you know, it's been an economic issue which has driven this election or the markets, because if you look last year, even Uttar Pradesh, they had farm loan waivers, and Gujarat, they had farm loan waivers. That didn't deter the stock market. If you look at the stock market, earnings are bottoming out, etc. I think those are far more important things from where we are in the economic perspective, and elections are probably going to play a lesser important role in the stock market perspective.
Chakri, Lokapriya, now, you know, ahead of these verdicts coming in, when we were talking to people, almost everybody was saying whatever the verdict is, if it is not in favor of BJP, then it's a separate story. But if it's in favor of BJP, maybe a day's reaction at best too, but at some point of time, macro concerns need to come to the fore, and these rallies won't last. What's your initial thought?
Indeed, I think the way banks are positioned right now is they're extremely cheap. They're, you know, a reflection of what economic activity is going to happen. And from that perspective, you know, this election is one more factor which is now out of the way. It shows that at least BJP has improved its position. So, you know, whichever government eventually forms a space, it's better for the state because it's an important state, you know, both in terms of FDI. Now, so continuity or no continuity, FDI will continue to happen into that state, which is important. And banks are a leading indicator of economic activity. They have been down and out for various well-known reasons. And so from that perspective, a revival or an anticipated revival of economy is taking the banks up. And I think banks will move higher irrespective of the noises that you'll hear in the coming months.
Chakri, just weigh in on that as well. I mean, would this economic momentum be playing in the minds? I mean, 1.4% for the Nifty Bank.
Yeah, economic momentum will play away, because if you look at the results so far, it's been clear that the consumer is picking up while industrial is still not yet picked up. And pockets of industrial activity is picking up, and capacity utilization is moving up. All this is good news for the economy, which shows that not only it's bottomed out, the early signs of revival. And second, as far as banks are concerned, mind you, today Piyush Goyal has been appointed as the Minister of Finance in Jaitley's absence until he recovers. And Piyush Goyal has always been viewed as a positive doer, and so that is also good news for the financial sector.
Chakri, I want you to come in on this, that at the end of the day, because everyone is interested in Karnataka, looking at what we'll see in 2019. Karnataka is today a story of anti-incumbency. If these numbers, you know, pull through till the end, and what the numbers we are showing right from the source is showing BJP has crossed 100 seats at 101. And this is 208 out of 222 seats counted. There is perhaps a little doubt that BJP will cross the halfway mark easily. JDS will not even be required. But just the proposition that they're going into a space where there is anti-incumbency, would that necessarily extend to the larger picture? Is that something that you're looking at? Is the same feeling there for 2019?
If the same feeling continues for 2019, it's largely good for the economy, because what they have done is they've successfully converted the so-called rural India, which is the majority of the thing, into also their vote banks. Now, so that means lots of good sectors like autos, auto ancillaries, the irrigation equipment manufacturers, all those guys benefit. And then from an economy perspective, I guess when you're having the same government in the center and the state, it allows easier policy making, which has been the problem for this country for decades on. So from that perspective, it is clearly good. That it also coincides with a period of low economic activities beginning to recover, and a national party in the power in the center is making inroads into other states.
Yeah, well, it's showing in the way the markets are reacting as well now, even extending the gains even further. As the leads on our website show, 101, and these are, as Tamanna said, from the Election Commission source, 101 versus 65 for the Congress and 40 for the JDS. Now, agreed, these may change a little bit here and there, but it certainly seems like it's in the pole position to be able to dictate terms, even if it doesn't cross the 112 mark, which also might be a possibility. It might actually cross the 112 mark as well. Chakri, what does this do to the financials predominantly, because that's the space which is leading higher? I know you mentioned earlier that the portfolio changes might also have to do something with this, but does this ever so more increase the divide between the PSUs who may bear the brunt of favorable public policies versus the privates which don't have to do that but enjoy the benefits of having the same government at the center and the state level?
I think having the same government at the center and state will make a positive difference to both PSU and private banks, and more to the PSU banks given the state that they're in, the weak financial conditions that they're in. So given this, I think one of the last shoe to fall is going to be the power sector NPAs. Now, if that is going to be addressed properly by the central government, that will help a lot in getting rid of the NPAs, RBI notwithstanding. So from that perspective, I think, with the beginning, you've seen it in Hindustan Unilever's numbers, which is the consumer is strong, so which private banks do well, industrial activity is weak, corporate banks will start picking.
Coverage. Chakri, Lokapriya, what now? I mean, would this, before we started talking about these, the one of the facets of conversation that came up was that if indeed the BJP has a strong showing in Karnataka, there is an outside chance that the elections might be preponed, the general elections might be preponed as well, to be in line with the state elections too. Now that it seems like this is the strong showing, irrespective of whether they need an ally or some people coming in to form, it's certainly seeming that they will be the government in Karnataka. What does this mean for 2019? And therefore, what does it mean for the markets in large?
Karnataka was the last shoe to drop for Congress, which is good news for the BJP and in a sense good news for the markets, because if indeed elections are preponed, then this country will move away from.
Do you see that possibility?
There is a possibility, because then the country can move away from being in a state of constant election time to actually something happening on the ground, which is always good for the markets. So from that perspective, yes, whether they prepone elections or not, the swing seems to be in favor of BJP, which is positive for the markets. And because having more of the same party in the center and states has shown to have its benefits, and the economy is bottoming out. So I think net, I think it's good for the overall market from where we stand currently.
We are at 19 times earnings, Chakri. Macro is not exactly the most hunky-dory of shapes. The rupee, as we speak, has worsened even further. Is a course correction par, or would you believe that we won't see one which is too dramatic?
19 times earnings is because of lack of earnings and the lack of earnings is because of various muddled activities, both government-led, RBI-led, global, various factors. So as earnings come back, and 2020 is supposed to be a particularly strong year for earnings. So from that perspective, I wouldn't look at valuation as a matter of concern.
So much for joining in on this special discussion on the Karnataka elections. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Chakri, Lokapriya, for coming in as well as our other guests for joining in. Really appreciate your time.